So get ready to show some skin. Skin. It's everywhere, you see it every day, but it is arguably one of the hardest things to ever paint. There is so much subtlety to skin that makes it so difficult to render correctly if you don't know what you're doing. Today I'm going to share with you 5 huge changes in my painting techniques that took my characters from looking like this to looking like this. You don't need fancy equipment, nor do you need a crazy amount of theoretical knowledge. These are tips that you can apply no matter what equipment you have, no matter what your skill level is. So get ready to show some skin.
Number 1. Get rid of the fancy skin brushes and definitely step away from the soft airbrush, at least for now. Listen, I've tried it all. Pore textures, get rid of it. That weird crisscross textured brush taken directly from an 8K macro shot of actual skin, throw the whole thing away. All of these brushes are incredible because they add a ton of imperfections. If you have texture, you have imperfections, and the more imperfections you have, the more realistic your character looks. However, seeing as my most popular videos are this and this, I'm guessing imperfections aren't really what a lot of you guys are going for. In either case, a textured brush can never substitute for actual painting skills. Trust me, I've tried. All you need is a single hard-edged round brush with flow and opacity set to pen pressure. The more pressure you apply on your graphics tablet, the more opacity you get. The hard edge allows you to get those painterly strokes, and you can resize the brush bigger to get global color or go really tiny to get the little details. This brush is like the Johnny Depp of digital painting. You might not appreciate just how versatile it is, but it will blow your mind. If you can't be bothered to make a brush or you don't know how to, I'll leave my own magic skin brush in the description. Import it into your Photoshop brush panel, boom, done. Next tip. Tip number 2, edge control. Now, this is where the great artists stand apart from the good ones. This part requires a little initial prep work, so make sure you remember this before you actually start rendering skin or anything. I'm gonna break this tip into 2 sub-tips just to make life a little easier. So tip 2.1, lock everything in with layer masks. Once you have your line art or even just a rough sketch, set your file up with layers for each material. For instance, here is a screenshot of a painting I'm working on for another video. I first outlined each character with a pen tool and made it into a selection. I then used this selection to create a mask on a group. If you don't know how masking works, here's a crash course. A layer mask is kind of like using masking tape or fluid in traditional painting. Everything that is painted black on the mask is where the masking fluid would be. Everything that is white on the mask is what is actually visible. So for instance, here's a canvas painted yellow. I'm now going to put a layer on top of it and fill that in with red. With the red layer selected, I'm now going to click the little mask button to make a new mask on it. If you look at the top right corner, you'll see that your color choices are now limited to a black and white spectrum. By default, the mask is painted white, meaning the entire layer is visible. With the mask selected, if I fill the document with black, the entire layer disappears. Basically, it's like you painted the red on with the entire document under masking fluid. Now, if I go in with the white, the mask is still selected, and paint out certain areas, you'll see that the red begins to show through. When I click on the layer thumbnail and paint with a different color, you'll see that all of the color stays within the white part of the mask. It's like having a selection, but a lot more forgiving. You want to make something invisible, don't erase it, paint it black on the mask. That way, if you later decide you want to bring it back, all you have to do is paint it white on the mask, non-destructive. Okay, back to the tutorial. All of my layers for this character will now go into the masked group, meaning that all of my rendering within that group will stay within the white areas of the group mask. I have then gone on and individually outlined and masked every single material on its own separate layer, including skin. It is a bit of initial work, but it will get you set up properly, and it makes sure you're staying within the edges, and it will make your life 1,000 times easier. Tip 2.2 is to use soft and hard edges. A soft edge is when two colors blend seamlessly into each other. A hard edge is when you can see the hard edge. Our 3D mind is so used to skin being a continuous layer, we often overlook the hard edges while painting it. Sure, there are obvious hard edges in the corners of the mouth or around the eyes, but there are other more subtle hard edges that are formed by the planes of the face. In order to avoid making this video 3 hours long, I'm gonna assume you guys know the basic anatomy and planes of the face. If not, leave me a comment below and I'll do a whole tutorial on it.
Knowledge!
But for the purposes of this video, here are some examples of areas where you can add in hard edges. Inner corner of the eye. Because of the bony eye socket, the skin right next to the nose bridge tends to appear flatter than the cheek area. You can paint this to have a hard edge, and it instantly adds more interest to the skin. Smile lines of the mouth. This one can make or break a painting. Too often, I see artists draw actual lines next to the mouth to indicate the poutiness of the lips. I've done it too. While this may work for older, more weathered faces, it really ruins your youthful characters. Smile lines age the face instantly. Smile plane shifts, however, can make a dramatic difference. Instead of painting a physical line, try painting in the upper lip area with a hard edge using a color that is just a tiny bit lighter than the cheek color. It is just a subtle value shift, but it makes all the difference. Alright, we can finally move on to tip number 3 for painting better skin. Hue variations. This is where the beauty of digital painting really shines through. Once you've painted your base skin tone and light and dark values, it is now time to whip out the soft airbrush. Make a new layer and set it to soft light blending mode. Now go to your color wheel and pick some super saturated colors and airbrush them lightly onto the skin. Make sure you use some restraint with this though, because too much saturated color can make it seem a little unrealistic. As a rule, I generally stick to red around the nose and the apples of the cheek, blue around the jaw, and yellow on the forehead area. Just to show you, here's what this hue variation layer looks like in the normal blending mode, but when it's set to soft light, it literally just looks like a natural variation in the skin tone. If you feel like it's still too saturated, play around with the opacity of the layer until you find that sweet spot. Tip number 4 jumps off of the last one, and that is to add subsurface scattering. If you've seen other skin tutorials, you've heard this term before, but if you haven't, here's a quick rundown. Skin is translucent. Skin has blood. Blood is red. In direct sunlight, the red of the blood shines through the translucent skin. Hold your hand in direct sunlight, you'll notice it. The red of the blood scatters under the surface of the skin. Boom, subsurface scattering. In your painting, this little detail will instantly add a ton of realism, and you do it exactly like we did in the last tip. You create a new layer and set it to soft light blending mode. You then pick a saturated red color, but this time you're going to softly airbrush it only on the areas that are directly in the light. For instance, ears or the nose in a side profile are great because these areas stick out from the face. You can also see it in the fingertips and toes if they are directly in the light. But as a rule of thumb, wherever the skin is thinnest is where you would see the most subsurface scattering. Super easy, but makes a massive impact. Okay, and the last tip for today, number 5, is direct light and hard shadows. Now this one again requires some restraint because it can be so easy to go overboard. But if you haven't tried it yet, play around with adding flecks or areas of direct light onto the skin. I'm talking vibrant, bright light directly hitting the surface. Just like the subsurface scattering, this works a treat around the edges of the body. On the flip side, you can also add fake cast shadows. For instance, here's my painting from last week, and I can paint in the silhouette of a stem with leaves on it and lower the opacity, maybe even smudge out the edges, and boom, suddenly it's like there's a plant in the way of the light. You probably think she's lying down in a lake that's in a garden or even in a forest. I didn't even paint a background, but your mind is instantly building a scene anyway. On the flip side, if I add a shadow of a geometric shape, maybe a cylinder, some rectangles, some, lines, now you think she's lying in a lake that is next to a construction site. Crazy how little work you can get away with doing, and it instantly creates a whole story.
So the next time you paint skin, try these 5 tips and let me know how it goes. If you find that they help and you use them in a painting, make sure you leave a link to your painting in the comments below, because I want to be like a proud mother goose and be like, look at my babies, look how beautiful their skin is. If there are any other topics you'd like for me to make tutorials on, then make sure you leave them below as well. And just like with this one, I will see what I can do. If you'd like to support my art and this channel and collect a limited edition of some of my cool paintings, then I have links to those in the description as well, and you can go check them out. Thank you so much. But if not, you can also support me by just leaving this video a big thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Do it. Just do it. Seriously, do it. It's gonna take 3 seconds. Check out some of my other tutorials. Maybe share them with an art friend who needs them. That helps everyone, doesn't it? Alright, I hope this video has been helpful and entertaining, hopefully as well, and that it makes painting skin a lot easier and a lot more fun for you. And I will see you on the next one. Bye.